All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Humble Baptist Podcast. I think we should have audio. Somebody in the comments let me know if we have audio because that has been the booger lately. All right. Welcome to the Humble Baptist Podcast. Still a touch under the weather, just mostly congestion stuff. Um, still kind of not necessarily puny, but just bleh. But yeah, so that's how my week has been going. A lot of you, awesome, awesome, awesome. Got the rib in the comment section. Hear you loud and clear. Load and clear. I read it. I read it correctly, regardless. Thank you, honey. Yeah. So, let me go through introduction stuff before I forget all about that. First and foremost, I am a member at Reformata Baptist Church. All of this is done under the guide of the local church, right? Under the authority of a local church. I feel like that's an important thing to stress anymore as we go into internet ministries or anybody that's teaching, is that this should be done under a local church. And it is done under my personal local church where I go every Lord's Day, where I'm in fellowship with my pastor. I talk to him. He watches the content, judges it. If he has any rebukes, he can bring them openly, and he knows that. So yeah, that's the first thing. Now the second announcement. Second announcement is the upcoming Laborers Conference. And so there is a conference going on in Newton, North Carolina. It's April 24th to the 27th. And yeah, basically it's just going to be a time of good fellowship, a time of good preaching. A lot of brothers from the Truth and Love Network that you'll actually see if you go over to the Truth and Love Network. I'm a part of that network. And so you'll see me normally every other Thursday on the Laborers Podcast, talking about theology, talking about it with just about everybody there. Anyways, Newton, North Carolina. The conference is free, so it doesn't cost you a dime to attend. So if you're in that area, even if you're not in that area, grab you a hotel room, come out. Several days of preaching. It's a blast. It's a blast. I went to it last year, and it was absolutely amazing. And so, yeah, I think that does it for all my updates, I think. If I forgot one, everybody knows that's me anyways. All right, so we have been talking about how to study the Bible. And so in this first part, I've been showing you Bible tools that we can use, things that we get to go in there. Hey, Miss Tam. See, Miss Tam. Miss Tam goes to church. I love her. Love Debbie. Love Will. Love all of them there. It's glad to have you on. Glad to have you watching. Yeah, we've been going through Bible study tools, just things that we can use that help us to understand the Bible, things that help us to study it, to know what we're dealing with. And in the first episode, I kind of showed you, technically in the first two, because we had that computer glitch. It was Bible study software and programs. And so it was things that you can download on your phone that are kind of a source all in amongst themselves, right? Where they have these things. They have concordances, they have commentaries, they have maps, they have all these study sources. But now you got to know what the sources are. So last week we talked about concordances. I showed you guys two different concordances. I showed you Cruden's, which I love to death. We actually did a giveaway. I wonder if that got to who it was supposed to get to. Hopefully it did. And then we talked about Strong's Concordance and just how, since it's called exhaustive, how massive it was. And we talked about that, went through the pros and cons of each, kind of gave you some history stuff. And so today's topic is commentaries and theology books. And so really I find this as the next most helpful thing that we're going to be using as we study the Bible. Right, because the first and foremost, the concordance only deals with the words that are in the Bible, so it helps you in the Bible find similar passages. It helps you to really study everything within the text of Scripture. But now we're going to something called commentaries, and while I think that a lot of you will have an understanding of what a commentary is, what it's used for, we still want to flush it out a little bit while we're on here. So a commentary is it is a work through of biblical theology. All right, that's some big words for it. What do I mean by that? And so essentially what it is it's written by an author. Each commentary has its own author. If you saw my thumbnail, you saw my whole stack that was like up to here, and two stacks. This whole top row is commentaries, and then I've got more on the bottom and then more on the second shelf. A lot of them. And so they have individual authors and from individual denominations and from like they're from different people. If that person is a Presbyterian, they're going to be writing out whenever a passage comes up, and I'm going to show you this. Whenever a passage comes up, you're going to get their interpretation of that passage. And so it's going to be a tool that whenever you're reading through, it's going to give you a little bit more insight from someone that's very skilled in the word, from someone that's took the time to write out what they believe about every verse of the Bible. And this could be from anybody good. This could be from some people that got some really wonky translations in there. And, for example, my big Bible, everybody knows me for carrying. This is got a blank page every other page because I am writing my own commentary out on scriptures just as something to pass down. It's all handwritten in there. And, this will be handed to somebody. And so this is the commentary of Troy. Troy's commentary, not worth much. Not super helpful probably for anybody else but me. But then we have things like Matthew Henry, we have Jameson Foss Brown, we have John Gill, we have Wiersbe, Warren Wiersbe, we have James Vernon McGee, we have, the list goes on and on and on. Albert Barnes, for the different people whose commentary that we do have. And so let's actually, we're going to go to the presentation page. I'm going to open up eSword, and we're going to dive into commentaries a little bit live on the show, just so I can give you guys a working example of what this is. And so I've got Galatians 2 pulled up here. I've got it to a very interesting part in Galatians 2. Peter comes to Antioch, and Paul confronts him because he's not eating with the Gentiles, and he goes, look, this is, if you're not compelling the Jews to live as the Jews, why are you compelling the Gentiles to live as the Jews? And so this is just a simple narrative passage that I thought, okay, well, this is a story, but what's going on with this, right? Like I need a little bit of extra. It's pretty plain in and of itself, but you got the Apostle Paul arguing with the Apostle Peter, like what's going on, right? And so if you're needing some help in this area, we're just going to pull up a commentary, right? This is eSword. As you see, I just kind of went over to where commentary. As long as I just hover over it, it'll stay. But if I go back over here, it kind of goes away. So I'm going to pin. If you did as I told you and went downloaded eSword and started using it, this will help you. And so, anyways, I've got it pulled up, right? I've got Galatians 2:11 clicked. And so instantly it opens up. I've got it on Matthew Henry's commentary of Galatians 2:11 to 21. And it just instantly does that, right? So if I click 2:10, you've got Galatians 2:1 to 2:10. Just eSword Bible software, showing you a little more. And so it says, from the account which Paul gives of what passed between him and the other apostles at Jerusalem, the Galatians might easily discern both the falseness of what his enemies had insinuated against him, and their own folly and weakness in departing from that gospel, which he had preached to them. But to give the greater weight to what he had already said, and more fully to fortify them against the insinuations of the Judaizing teachers, he acquaints them with another interview which he had with the Apostle Peter at Antioch, and what passed between them there. So he kind of summarized what was going on, and now he's going to get into it. He tells us a little bit about Antioch itself. Antioch was one of the chief churches of the Gentile Christians, as Jerusalem was to the Christians who turned from Judaism to the faith of Christ. There is no color of reason for that superstition that Peter was the bishop of Antioch. If he had, surely Paul would have not have withstood him in his own church, as we here find he did. But on the contrary, it is here spoken of as an occasional visit which he made thither. In their other meeting, there had been good harmony and agreement. Peter and the other apostles had both acknowledged Paul's commission and approved his doctrine, and they parted very good friends. But in this, Paul finds himself obliged to oppose Peter, for he was to be blamed. That's from the text. A plain evidence that he was not inferior to him, and consequently of the weakness of the Pope's pretense to supremacy and infallibility as the successor of Peter, here we may observe. Matthew Henry kind of throws in, you can read a little bit of, Matthew Henry was 1700s. So it's important to know that kind of context, right? He's saying, look, because Paul stood up to Peter, it's obvious that Peter wasn't acting as a pope, as the Roman Catholics say. Peter's fault. When he come among the Gentile churches, he compiled with them and did eat with them, though they were not circumcised, agreeably to the instructions which were given in particular to him in Acts 10. So now you can go to Acts 10. Matthew's kind of giving you a little bit extra, and so you can go see the, I believe that's the sheet lifted down from heaven. Don't call unclean the things that I have cleansed. Telling him to go into the house of the Gentiles. When he was, look, he even says that. Boom. When he was warned by the heavenly vision to call nothing common or unclean. But when there came some Jewish Christians from Jerusalem, he grew more shy of the Gentiles, only to humor those of the circumcision, and for fear of giving them offense, which doubtless was to the great grief and discouragement of the Gentile churches. Then he withdrew and separated himself. His fault herein had bad influence upon others, for the other Jews were disassembled with him, though before they might be better disposed, yet now, from his example, they took on them the scruple eating with the Gentiles, and pretended they could not in conscience do it, because they were not circumcised. And so I've just kind of read a good bit, and I'm not going to read all of it. Matthew Henry is long-winded. But we see he's talking about the text. He's expositing the text, right? He's letting us know, hey, look, this is what's happened. This is what's going on in the text. This is what's this is what we need to learn from this. This is what we can take from it in context and how we can apply it. And so really, that's what a commentary is. It's an exposition. It's exegesis from the biblical text by anyone, right? So if we go up here, I click John Gill, boom. Now we've got John Gill's notes. But when Peter was come to Antioch, and then he starts talking about the Alexandrian copies, that gets a little bit into our first. Oh, it also talks about the Vulgate, the Syriac, the Ethiopic versions. So he actually talks about some textual criticism. If you'll remember from our first series, that's what John Gill's talking about. We also got Jameson Fawcett Brown. We've got Albert Barnes. We've got the Expositor Bible Commentary. And so these are all sources that whenever you're studying the Bible, whenever you're working through a book of the Bible, and you're like, man, I need some help. What did Jesus mean by this? right? That's going to be a lot of, if you're working through parables, commentaries are going to be massive. Um, if you're working through prophetic books of the Bible, like Isaiah, Jeremiah, Hosea, Ezekiel, um, you're going to be running the commentaries. And so really that's what a commentary is. And that's how it's going to help you. Now we'll just kind of go back to, you just need to see me now. But now the question comes like, okay, well, Troy, I see the names that you got. You got Matthew Henry, you got John Gill, you got James Foss Brown, you've got blah, 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 Albert Barnes. You've mentioned Wiersbe, you've mentioned James Vernon McGee. What commentaries should I be using? Who do I want? Who has a good commentary? Who has the best commentary for this? Who has the best commentary for that? These are questions, and the answer to that I want to give you is I want you to go talk to your pastor, because I can't be whoever it is, whoever you are that are watching. I don't want to be your guide. I am not the person that is praying over you. Some of you are, obviously, but praying over you and bringing you a message. You are not the people. I am not a pastor of the church, right? And so I'm not going to be your guide in that. What I want you to do is I want you to go up to your pastor, and I just want you to start a conversation, which, by the way, you should be able to talk to your pastor about all of these things. I talk to my pastor about these things. This is a exact conversation that I have had. And brother, who are you reading right now? And I've had it with a lot of pastors. Who are you reading after right now? What commentaries are you in? And I've had ones been like, oh man, I've been diving into John Gill here recently. Another brother's been like, man, I can't get enough of Wiersbe right now. I just, he's, just feeding so much into the way I'm preaching, into the way I'm teaching, into the, what I'm learning. And so go up to your pastor and start these conversations. Be like, hey, look, I'm wanting to get deeper into the word. What kind of comment, whose commentary do you recommend? I want to, I want someone that's going to help me grow with these things. And they should tell you exactly who they're going to have suggestions. If you can't talk to your pastor, that's a problem. That's a problem. It's a problem we're going to talk about probably another day. If you can't go up to your pastor after a service or during a fellowship time or something like that and just ask him, who he's reading after or anything like that, then there's some problems. There's some problems in the ecclesiology of that church. I'd just throw that out there. Your pastor should smell like sheep. And so really that's my emphasis there. I understand that massive churches do have people that do teach under them, and it kind of like breaks up into kind of like mini churches inside a church. While I think that that's a really not good situation, the brothers that is teaching you, that is feeding into your life as a believer, ask them, hey, who are you reading after? I want to start reading some commentaries as I'm reading. I'm working through Isaiah, and the dude has lost me in the sauce so many times. So what do I do with that? That's as a matter of fact, speaking of that, a lot of these commentaries are on the book of Isaiah. And that's because I was teaching through the book of Isaiah. So I've got Sammy and Albert Barnes. They're all in physical copy. Because I'm an old soul at heart. But that's neither here nor there. So, yeah, that's what commentaries are. You're going to need them. It's going to help you. It's going to help you. You're going to get someone else. It's like having a miniature sermon whenever you're reading a commentary. They're expositing the text, helping you to understand, giving you different viewpoints. Charles Spurgeon has an excellent lesson to his students on commentaries. Uh, I actually ought to post that. I will probably share that on the Facebook group on the Humble Baptist Facebook page. Just type in the Humble Baptist Podcast. I'll share that later on today because it's good. And it's a letter to preachers, right, to his students that are coming to grow preachers as he instructs them on commentaries. Wonderful message. But that brings me to my next point, which is theology books, right? Now, what I am constituting as a theology book right now are if you watch the Here I Stand Theology podcast on Thursdays, you will see me and Pastor Claude working through this book right here. The Mysteries of Christ, His Covenant, and His Kingdom by Sam Renahan. By the way, if you're not watching that already, go check it out. Thursdays at 7. Super fun. I'm having a blast with that. But this is a theology book. It's not a commentary, right? He's not working through the Bible verse by verse, giving us his individual thoughts on it. But he has compiled his own list of verses, and he is preaching topically on them, right? He's teaching topically on it. And so this one is going through Baptist covenant theology. And then, here's another example. This is another theology book, right? And it's Things to Come by J. Dwight Pentecost. And it's him working through dispensational eschatology. And it's his big, as you see, it's huge, right? But it's a reference guide, and it only deals with eschatology. He didn't start in Genesis and then work his way all the way to, Revelation. There's a lot of Revelation in here. There's a lot of 1st, 2nd Thessalonians, 1st, 2nd Peter. And so that's a theology book, right? They're just books that you are reading that are helping your understanding in a specific area. I've got one here called The Forgotten Trinity I've been working through by Dr. James White. It is only dealing with the Trinity. And these are good. These are good sources because they're sharpening your understanding in areas in combination, right? So you're getting all of the scripture, but you're getting the verses that are connecting, talking about the same thing, pinpointed. Yes, exactly. Right. Let's see here. Theology book equals book on biblical subject. Yes, that is exactly what I'm saying. It's a topical. It's basically one topic that you're dealing in. And so another thing I want to, what theology books can we get? Well, there's all kinds, and they vary phenomenally, right? Like there's just Christians write, and so there's books on everything. And so the same suggestion still applies. If you're looking for a good theology book on a specific issue, I would say go talk to your pastor. And really why is because you can get off in the weeds on theology books. You can do the same thing with commentaries. Don't get me wrong. There are Roman Catholic commentaries. There are Jehovah's Witness commentaries. There are Mormon commentaries. These are things that, a lay member that is not trained in these things does not want to pick up. We don't want to read heresy unless we're wanting to respond to it. But so go talk to your pastor. Go talk to your pastor. Be like, hey, I'm wanting to learn more about this. Do you got any book recommendations? That was actually where this book came from. It's a book suggestion from my pastor. And technically, it's like the second or third book recommendation from my pastor. And so it's the one me and him are going through. It's discipleship. And so my cat just freaked out. the reason to still go ask your pastor is I want to show you another one I have. Okay, so this is something I have from back in the day. This book is called The Miracle of Forgiveness. Sounds great, right? Like sounds, oh, buddy, I need that. That's a theology book, right? It's a theology book about forgiveness. It is written by President Spencer Kimball of the LDS Church, right? So Mormon book. This book is highly heretical. This is like Mormons don't even like this book. Wobble. Mr. Wobbles. Yep, Mr. Wobbles ran into the door. Yep, he did. I heard it. And so, even the Mormons do not like this book. It's technically, I want to say it's completely out of print everywhere. I found out it was going out of print, and I bought a few extra copies as well. But it's got a good title. That sounds like something that we would want to be a part of. The Miracle of Forgiveness. Well, how would we know instantly seeing this on a shelf at a McKay's, right? We're going to go for a McKay's, or a used bookstore, or even or Books A Million or whatever. You see the title on the shelf, you go, that sounds like something I'd like to read. How do you know that what you're getting isn't garbage? Like absolute garbage? Because I'm just gonna be honest, I think 80% of it is. 80% of it is probably trash that we should not be ingesting in today's culture. It's dangerous. You're going to get prosperity gospel. You're going to get all of these things. So talk to your pastor. Talk to the person that loves you, cares about you, prays for you. Let him know specifically what you want to learn in, like what kind of subject are you, if you go up to your pastor and you say, hey, I'm struggling to understand end times, and so I really want to dive into that subject. I want to know more about it. He's going to give you book recommendations. More than likely he'll go get them off his shelf and just be like, here you go. Bring it back to me whenever you're done. I've actually got one of those in there. Side note. But, go talk to the man. He's your shepherd, your under shepherd, right? Like he's there to help. These are the conversations that they're going to love to have. Your elders and your pastor, which synonymous, like they're there to help. And so I do want to encourage building those relationships. Stay away from heresy. That's just plain and simple. And so the best way I can say to do that is to have personal conversations with your elders at your church, and they're gonna point you in the right direction, right? There may be denominational distinctions in between some of the viewership here. They're going to give you, if you're a Presbyterian, they're going to give you a Presbyterian book, right? Recommendation. If you're Independent Baptist, your pastor is going to give you an Independent Baptist denomination. And so it's really going to grow where you're at, right? So, let's see here. Yeah, do some research as well before you read. Yep. And that's why I'm saying go talk to your pastor to help. Because someone that is trying their hardest to tend to the flock is not going to lead them down a wrong path, right? If someone at my church comes up and is like, Troy, I'm looking for a book on prayer, I'm not going to hand them something by Joel Osteen. That's just, I love that person, right? If someone, brings something to our church, like, man, dude, look, I've been hammering out this devotional by Stephen Furtick. Immediately, I'm going to go, hey, whoa, let's pump the brakes. Let's talk about what you got there, please. And of course, do it in grace and do it in love. But yeah, that's why talk to your elders. Talk to your elders about what theology books. They're going to have recommendations because they're doing these things, right? Your pastors are reading theology books. Your pastors are reading commentaries. Your elders are reading commentaries. They're reading theology books. This is something that everybody in a teaching position is or should be doing, right? Like if you, yeah, we're not going to go off down the they don't do that. Yeah, if they don't do that, that's another problem. That's another problem for another day. We will probably at some point in time talk about ecclesiology and all the warnings there, but as of right now, I think we've got a small group that most of you, I know where you are, who you are, where you go to church, yada yada yada. But really, yeah, that's what I had for you today. I thank everybody for watching, and not a super long podcast today. Next week, we're gonna tackle probably some stuff in the Greek, dealing with interlinears, Greek New Testament, studying the original languages, working through that. I do have some caveats that I want to say about that, and then we're probably going to cover also, because these are just little small snippets, right? I'm not giving you an exhaustive thing, but so we'll probably cover working in original languages and Bible dictionaries. Sorry, I forgot the name of them, and I literally had to turn around and look at my shelf to memorize the name. But we're going to work through Bible dictionaries and Bible podcasts. And so I'm looking forward to that. Well, thank you, Miss Tam. I can't wait to see you tomorrow. I'm going to give you a hug, get you sick. It's going to be great. You're going to love me for it. Actually, I'll probably stay away from everybody. But yeah, so thank you everybody for watching. This has been a pleasure. We're getting some things worked out. I didn't have to fight with the sound. I didn't have to fight with much of nothing today. It worked like a charm. Happy about that. As always, I'll see you next Saturday at 8. I believe we're going to stick with that. All right. Y'all have a good one.